What's up, everyone? 138 MMA here. UFC 283 is upon us. If this is your first time finding the channel, hey, welcome. Sure glad to have you. If this is not your first time and you are a returning viewer, hey, guess what? Welcome back. I'm happy you're here again. So we're going to break down the UFC 283 card in its entirety from start to finish, prelims to main event. I will give you the full breakdown of every fight, the preview, the prediction, the pick, all that good stuff. You guys are going to love it. Now, but real quick, before we get into the first fight of the night, I want to tell you about my Tapology. I started a Tapology page at the start of the year. I'm going to make picks on every single UFC card, every single Bellator card, and maybe some other cards here and there. So if you want some of my picks on some cards that maybe I don't break down on the channel, well, you can get a couple of picks on there by checking me out on Tapology. I'm 138 MMA, go figure. It's the same name as the channel name, so easy one to find. Twitter, if you follow me on Twitter, great. I appreciate it. If you don't follow me on Twitter yet, maybe it's because you didn't know I have Twitter. So I have Twitter, 138 MMA. A lot of you don't check the description. Hey, that's okay. 138 MMA on Twitter. You can find me there. Pretty easy to find. Nobody else has the name. So either way, that's what we've got there. I'm going to get into these fights. Let me tell you this, though. This is the second time I'm recording this. I recorded all of these fights last night. 3 hours of recording time. I go to upload them today and corrupted. So apparently you can recover those. I didn't know how to do it. I messed it up. Either way, I'm not super tech savvy if you can't tell by the fact that I use a marker board. But either way, we're going to do this again. I'm going to put my effort into it, and this is what you're going to get. So I will see you in the first fight.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, 138 MMA proudly brings to you the hottest picks in the world!
Card, we have Daniel Marcos taking on Saimon Oliveira in the 135-pound division. In this matchup, 4-1 in the last 5 for Oliveira, 5-0 for Marcos. Obviously, Marcos is undefeated, so that does make sense. In this matchup, we have a couple of guys who are kind of billed as strikers, but one really isn't a striker. So for Saimon Oliveira, he is billed as kind of a Muay Thai guy, and his Muay Thai is okay. It's not bad. It's decent. But he does throw a lot of single shots, which kind of, isn't really what you would want to see from a Muay Thai guy. But also in this matchup, he's going to be the much shorter fighter. So he's 5'4" with a 67-inch reach against this 5'7", 68-inch reach of Marcos. And if you've seen me break these videos down before, you know what I'm about to say. 5'4", 67-inch reach. Okay, so that's only 1-inch reach difference. Well, yes and no. 5'4", he's punching up to hit the 5'7" guy. Maybe not that high, that's pretty tall. But he's punching up to hit the 5'7" guy. So what does that do? Well, that makes that your reach, even though it's 1 inch different, actually be more different if you're trying to punch the guy in the face. If you don't believe me, walk with your arms straight out, straight to a wall, and then mark where your feet are when you touch the wall. Then put your arms up like this and walk towards the wall and see where your feet are when you touch the wall. That will explain the difference in the height that changes the reach for that example, for punching someone. So anyway, that's where we're at there. So for a single shot Muay Thai guy, on the feet, he kind of leaves a lot to be desired, but he's really good at one thing, and that is guillotine chokes. He is solid with the guillotine chokes. He's decent on the ground. I'll give him good in the category of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. He is good. But the chokes are what get his money made. That's what they are. Because he lacks the ability to get the fight to the ground. His takedowns aren't really there. He does have somewhat porous defense of the striking, so he'll get hit. But if the fight gets to the ground, dude's got good chokes. If you shoot a takedown on him and you're not really, watching where your neck's at, guy's going to lock it up. So he's very good in that sense. For Marcos, on the other hand, the guy's more of a boxer with good head movement. He kind of will do the thing that boxers do different than MMA is MMA, you got to move your whole body a lot of times because leg kicks, kicks in general, you know what I mean? So you can't just do the head movement and dodge all the strikes. Well, Marcos kind of does that sometimes, and it's a good thing, but it's also a bad thing because if somebody's throwing kicks outside with their punches, we saw it in Leon Edwards versus Kamaru Usman, where what happens if he's trying to slip a punch and there's a kick coming, well, guess what? That kick can hit you right in the face and probably going to knock you out. But we don't have to worry about that with Oliveira because he's throwing single shots probably and not going to follow up a punch with a kick, most likely. Either way, maybe he will, but either way. So the head movement's a good thing for most situations. He's got good boxing in combination with volume. So on his Contender Series fight, I actually picked against him. I felt like an idiot afterwards. I just thought inactivity, he fought a bunch of bums, whatever. I was wrong. Daniel Marcos was the real deal. So for this fight, I'm actually going to pick Daniel Marcos because I think he's the far better striker. And with Oliveira lacking the ability to really get this fight to the ground on a consistent basis, I don't think he's going to be able to use the jiu-jitsu to take the advantage of Marcos. So for me, I'm taking Marcos here. Let me know what you guys got. Let's bantamweight matchup here. We have Luan Lecerda taking on Cody Stamann. 2-3 for Stamann in his last 5, as opposed to 5-0 for Lecerda in his last 5. And when you just look at that, it seems like the pick should be really easy in Lecerda. But when you break it down a little bit further, you kind of go off the level of competition. And Cody Stamann has 5 losses in his career. Some of the likes of Aljamain Sterling, Merab Dvalishvili, I think Jimmy Rivera was one of them. We've got, who else do we have? Drawing a blank on the rest. Oh, Said Nurmagomedov was another one. Like, there's so many good ones. Anyway, his losses are to some of the better competitors at the bantamweight division in MMA and especially in the UFC. So for Cody Stamann, that 3 losses, I believe, Dvalishvili and Said Nurmagomedov were his 2 most recent losses, weren't they? So, no harm there. He did have a really nice knockout win over Eddie Wineland in his last fight. Some of you guys in the comments seem to think I look like a young Eddie Wineland, is what you're saying. So, apparently I look like Eddie Wineland. I don't know, but I don't know. I don't think so, but other people have said that in the comments, and then I told my girlfriend that, and she said, yeah, I guess I can kind of see it. So I guess maybe I do. I don't know. Whatever. Either way, so in this matchup, let's break the matchup down. Who cares what I look like? We have a 5'6", 64.5-inch reach for Cody Stamann against the 5'7", 73-inch reach of Lecerda. That's a big height and reach advantage for Lecerda. And for his style, where he comes forward wild with his striking, throwing powerful shots, nothing but going for it. And when he gets to the clinch from the striking, if he strikes all the way into the clinch, that's where he's going for the takedown. Once he gets the takedown, he's using his jiu-jitsu to seek the finish. Here's the problem. He's going up against a guy in Cody Stamann who has improved boxing. Clearly, he hits hard enough to put Wineland out. He hits hard. He does have pretty good volume on the feet. It's the wrestling, though, that's the problem. Because I think if Cody Stamann gets on top of Lecerda, that's going to be the downfall for that jiu-jitsu. That's going to be the downfall for those wild strikes. Cody Stamann, he's a guy that'll send takedowns with volume. He'll do takedown after takedown to get you to the mat. Now, if you're coming forward, crashing heavy, looking for big shots, guess what? Your takedown defense isn't there. So for a guy like Cody Stamann, I think the wrestling is there all day. If he decides to stand and trade with him, well, could go either way. I do think Lecerda probably has a reckless style that is going to be hard for Stamann to really try to counter-strike with. But the boxing isn't bad. He's gotten much better with his boxing skill. His punches look nice and tight. He's throwing from in close and turning the hammers over. You know what I mean? So he's doing fine there. And the striking defense leaves a lot to be desired for Lecerda, like I said, especially because he's coming in throwing recklessly. But if he doesn't finish Cody Stamann right away on that big rush forward and get on top and finish him with some jiu-jitsu or just knock him out on the feet, I think he's going to be in for a long night, a rough night at that, because I think Cody Stamann's going to be able to get on top of him, use that takedown, use that top pressure, grind a few out, and I think he's just going to be the overall better fighter. Now, when I first looked at this, I thought Lecerda was going to be a great play. Big underdog, good pick. Now I'm leaning Stamann. I feel pretty good about picking Stamann here. I don't think I can play him at those odds, but I'm going to take Stamann. Let me know what you guys have. I hope I didn't waste too much time on this one, but it should be a pretty clear pick. So in the women's featherweight division, I thought we were getting rid of this thing. Either way, we got a featherweight matchup here. We have Zarah Fairn taking on Josiane Nunes. Now for Nunes, she's 5-0 in her last 5, 3-2 for Fairn. Real quick though, if you made it this far in the video and you have not yet liked this video, please do that for me right now. I'd really appreciate it. If you are still watching this video and you don't actually like this video, why are you still watching this video, dude? This has been going on a while. So like the video for me. I really appreciate it a lot. Anyway, back to the fight. So in this matchup, Fairn is the much older fighter here. She is 36 years old as opposed to the 29 for Nunes. But Fairn is the much bigger fighter here. She is 5'8" with a 73.5-inch reach against the 5'2", 67-inch reach of Nunes. That is massive. Fairn has actually missed weight at featherweight before. She's going to be way bigger than Nunes here. This matchup is interesting because both ladies are accomplished strikers. Neither of them can grapple. For Fairn, she's a very good striker, big, wears on you a bit, but she doesn't really have a ton of power in each of her shots. On the other hand, we have Nunes, who has a ton of power and a ton of volume, but she's way at the disadvantage of the size because she's only 5'2", like I said, 67-inch in the reach department. And so in this matchup, I thought I was going to be clever. I thought, okay, women's fight, perfect. Under 2.5 is probably going to be plus money. Nope. Went on, checked it out like, oh, okay, great. I'm going to make some money on that one. I think the under 2.5 is going to be a good play. It's not plus money, and I'm not going to play it. So because I can't get that at plus money, it wasn't worth it. So I'm not going to bet this fight. I'm going to put that out there now because I'm not going to pick a side and bet that side, but I will pick a fight. I will pick a winner for the fight pick. I'm going to lean Nunes slightly. The reason I say slightly, she's going to be the much smaller fighter. Fairn is going to be able to hit her way further back than Nunes can hit her, but Nunes I do think hits harder and will probably have the better volume. So I lean Nunes. Not a confident pick. I'll see you guys next up. We have a welterweight matchup between two fighters who are both the tale of two fighters, if that makes any sense. Let me break it down for you. In this matchup, we have two guys. Warley Alves coming in 2-3 in his last 5. Nicolas Dalby 3-1 and a no contest in his last 5. These guys, they're two of the most inconsistent and hard to predict fighters in the UFC. Particularly Warley Alves, actually. You don't know which Alves is going to show up. Is it the guy who just 3 same leg round kicks right to the body to Mounir Lazzez and just puts him out of there like an absolute savage? Maybe. Is it the Warley Alves that comes out, beats Colby Covington? Maybe. Or is it the Warley Alves is going to come out and not do anything? He's just going to go out there and kind of like halfway fight and do whatever, you know? I don't know. It's hard to predict in a matchup with two guys that are super inconsistent. Nicolas Dalby's 38 years old already, so, I mean, towards the end of the career, I assume. But he does have a 2.5-inch reach advantage, and he may be able to use that here. He does just about everything well enough. So what do I mean by that? He's a pretty decent striker, pretty decent wrestler, pretty decent with his jiu-jitsu, pretty decent in the clinch, pretty decent, you know, he's decent everywhere, does everything well enough. Alves, on the other hand, the guy's got good jiu-jitsu, and he's got solid, powerful striking. But like I said, both guys are super inconsistent. I can't trust either of them with a pick. I won't bet on this fight. I will not do it. If there's any fight if I had to bet on every single fight on the card but one, this is the one I wouldn't bet on. For the sake of a pick, I'm gonna take Alves, but I just because I know what level he can be when he shows up at his top form, and I know that that's better than what Nicolas Dalby can be at his top form. But what guy's gonna show up? I don't know. Let me know what you guys think. I know a lot of people are picking Dalby. Yeah, maybe. I don't know. That's least confident pick on the card. I'll see you guys. All signs point to this being the most exciting fight on the card. In the lightweight division, we have Terrance McKinney taking on Ismael Bonfim. Now, for Bonfim, he's 5-0 in his last 5 fights, coming off of his Contender Series win over Nariman Abasov, in which I picked him. Now, a lot of people didn't. Everybody was in the comments telling me I was stupid, telling me that Nariman Abasov was going to win that fight. If you don't believe me, it's on the channel. Go back and look at it. Nariman Abasov is a heck of a fighter. I think he's ready for the UFC as well. And I thought both of those guys should have just been right into the UFC, but they made him fight on Contender Series. So Ismael Bonfim was my pick then, and guess what? He won. He's here in the UFC, making his debut against Terrance McKinney, who is another tough matchup for the guy. They're not doing Bonfim any favors here. So Terrance McKinney 4-1 in his last 5 fights. Now, that one loss is a Drew Dober after he hit Drew Dober with everything, including the kitchen sink, and just could not put him out. He straight up head kicked Drew Dober, and Drew Dober ate that head kick like it was a sandwich, kept going forward. McKinney, tough as nails though, fought his backside off to try and get Dober out of there. But the dude's just hard to beat. Obviously, we've seen Dober on a tear lately. That's just the way that it is. So for McKinney, 4-1 in his last 5 fights. Those wins have looked pretty good. That loss to Dober, well, it's aged pretty well. Dober's a beast. So either way, this should be a great matchup. Now, for Terrance McKinney, he does have a bit of a height and reach advantage. 2 inches either way. 2 inches can make a difference in this matchup because here's what we have. We have McKinney, who is a fast, powerful striker, starts quick. Right out of the gate, he's at 100 miles an hour. Now, for McKinney, he's going to come down and throw long, rangy punches. And when he throws those long, rangy punches, he does this. As you can see, my hand is down on the left side, not up here protecting my chin. So even though he's got that 2-inch reach advantage and can reach Bonfim before Bonfim can reach McKinney, McKinney does throw like this and start to really just turn those hands and get him ready to roll, but not protecting his chin while he's doing it sometimes when he's trying to run right through you. That's cool and all, But Bonfim's got good boxing. He's also an aggressive striker, but he can get too wild as well. However, the counter-striking, I do like that from Bonfim. He's able to stay in the pocket and counter-strike someone. And someone like McKinney, who will leave his chin exposed to in this, there's a chance that he gets caught. But there's also a chance that Bonfim maybe catches McKinney, and McKinney swings back and catches Bonfim, and we got two guys just slugging it out, and then we're going to see whose chin holds up. Now, that's a high likelihood in this matchup because neither guy really wants to back down. Neither guy is going to give up being the more aggressive fighter, in my opinion. However, let's look at the other intangibles. So striking should be a slobber knocker, but the wrestling advantage goes to McKinney. So if the fight is going to the ground, I think if McKinney gets on top of Bonfim, he's going to have some success there. However, Bonfim is really good with his jiu-jitsu, and also he's good at reversing takedowns. So if Bonfim can end up on top of McKinney, I think McKinney's in trouble as well. This is going to be a close fight. Honestly, not mega confident in my pick here. This is going to be a very close fight. But I do believe that because Bonfim was able to beat Nariman Abasov in that Contender Series matchup, somebody who I think is actually better than anybody that McKinney's beat in the UFC, and obviously he didn't beat Dober, so everybody that McKinney's faced in the UFC with the exception of Dober or beat in the UFC, I think Abasov could beat those guys just as well. Because Bonfim was able to get the win over Abasov, I'm going to lean Bonfim. I think that's a heck of a win that people aren't looking at as big of a win as it really is. I don't think Bonfim's lost a fight since like 2014. I don't know what you guys were doing in 2014. I wasn't doing a whole lot. Gosh, what was I doing in 2014? I think I worked at like a gas station or something. Either way, so Ismael Bonfim has not lost since 2014. His last win is over Nariman Abasov. Heck of a fighter who has really solid wrestling. And that's what makes me think that he can negate the wrestling of Terrance McKinney. Yes, Terrance McKinney could come out, crack Bonfim, and get the win early. I also think Bonfim could do the same to McKinney, and I think that on the ground it's going to favor Bonfim because he's going to have that jiu-jitsu and reverse takedowns and the ability to do that, especially because he was able to get the win over Abasov, like I said. So let me know what you guys think. I have a slight lean on the Bonfim side. Like I said, not the most confident. I'm actually a big fan of Terrance McKinney, so I'm not just picking against the guy just because I'm a big fan of Bonfim. I'm a big fan of both of these guys. So let me know where you guys are sitting on this one. I will see you in the next heavyweight. We have Jailton Almeida taking on Shamil Abdurakhimov. In this matchup, Abdurakhimov coming in 2-3 in his last 5 fights, and for Almeida, 5-0 in his last 5 fights. Almeida is a young up-and-coming prospect, 31 years old, and at the heavyweight division, he is still very young. He hasn't even reached his prime yet at the heavyweight division or light heavyweight division, which he could clearly compete in either. 41 on the side of Abdurakhimov, who is towards the end of his career. He's had a long 27-fight career, as you can see there. And, he's also competed well into his 40s because, well, here we are at 41, which in fight years, 41 is well into your 40s because if you even touch 40, you're getting old. So in this matchup here, we've got a guy who is he's a kind of that classic wrestle boxer, but not in the way that you think of with like an old Chuck Liddell or anything. We've got Abdurakhimov, he does have good boxing. He's got the counter striking. He's got the power. It's just a little bit slower than it used to be. And that's a shame because it used to be pretty decent. You know, he used to be able to hit those counters and drop a guy and then follow him to the ground, use that wrestling to get that top pressure down there and, win some rounds or land some ground and pound. But now, it's still there, but it's just not like it needs to be. And going up against a guy like Jailton Almeida, that's a problem. So for Abdurakhimov, the cardio and the chin are starting to fade as well. And you're going up against a guy like Jailton Almeida. Like I said, the dude's got very high-level grappling. The dude's got good takedowns. By good, I mean he's got 75% accuracy in the UFC so far. Dude's got a high motor, and that includes his Contender Series fight as well. And the guy just doesn't get hit. 0.43 strikes absorbed per minute. Yeah, Jailton Almeida is going to win this fight. You could straight up go to the bank, get as much money as they will give you in a loan, bet it on Jailton Almeida. What is he, minus 1,100 now? Bet it on there. Doesn't matter. You're going to get that back, short of him going out there and breaking a leg, I guess, or something crazy like that. Jailton Almeida is going to win this fight. Obviously, lock of the night. I mean, there's no way. So, anyway, most confident pick, Jailton Almeida. If you disagree, you're out of your mind. I want to see the bet slip. There ain't nobody out there betting on Shamil Abdurakhimov. If so, tweet the bet slip to me because I don't believe you. Tweet me 138 MMA if you've got a bet slip that says Shamil Abdurakhimov and you bet more than $1. All right. Anyway, move on to the next along. We have Mounir Lazzez in the welterweight division taking on Gabriel Bonfim. For Bonfim, he's an undefeated fighter, 5-0 in his last 5 fights. Obviously, he is making his UFC debut against Mounir Lazzez, who is 4-1 in his last 5. That one loss in the last 5 is to Warley Alves, who's fighting on this card as well, where he just took 3 roundhouse kicks right to the body and crumbled like a sack of potatoes. Rightfully so. That was world beater Warley. So in this one, we'll see what we get here. Mounir Lazzez is 35 years of age as opposed to the 25 on the Bonfim side. The height, though, or the height is the same. The reach, though, is very much in the side of Lazzez. That 76-inch reach as opposed to the 72.5 on the Bonfim side. Now, this matchup, we have a couple of strikers. Now, Lazzez uses the range a little bit better with his striking. He's got the kicks from long range, and he can control the distance really well. He's got good counter shots, good volume, all of that. On the other side, we have Bonfim, who's going to want to use his boxing to get in a little bit closer, use the volume, striking combination, and use those counter strikes as well, because both guys are going to be trying to counter each other. The problem is, Bonfim gets hit at range. So guys that throw long, straight shots, Lazzez probably will be doing that here. Guys that throw those long, straight shots have a good shot at hitting Bonfim square right down the middle. Now, that's something he struggles with, but here's the thing. He has a few things different that he can use to mix up this game. If he can work the takedowns, even just to set the thought there, plant the seed in Lazzez's head. Wow, that's hard to say. Lazzez will have to now think about those takedowns coming because Bonfim, you don't want to screw around with him on the ground. He's very good in the jiu-jitsu department as well. So that wrestling and jiu-jitsu, having that as an option is going to make the striking for Bonfim just a little bit better there because he knows that he can work the boxing after the opponent is worried about those takedowns. Now for Lazzez, he has decent wrestling in his own right. Not as good as Bonfim, but he does have some decent takedown defense, uses the wrestling kind of as a counter wrestling measure, maybe can reverse a takedown, things like that. But when it comes to the wrestling, I do think Bonfim gets a severe edge in the wrestling there. Lazzez can get hit as well if you can get past his long range. If you can get inside of that, he does get hit fairly easily, but he does have a pretty good chin. The body shots are what do him in, obviously, because Alves was able to do it. But I mean, like I said, that would take out most people. But the body shots are what are gonna do in Lazzez. A guy like him, when you're going up against someone like Bonfim, who's going to have to get inside of your range, those body shots are there all day for him. So for me, this matchup is a close matchup, closer than people are probably predicting it to be. I know that Bonfim, last I saw, was like minus 180. He's still playable at that, and I would actually consider playing him in this matchup here. I do like Bonfim here. I know Lazzez is a live dog, but I think Bonfim has more upside. I think in this matchup, he's 10 years younger. He has probably the better overall skill set for MMA. So I think he's going to be able to get this one done. Let me know what you guys think. If you've got the underdog, I'd love to see it in the comments below. Let me know, and we will see. In this matchup here, we have Melk Costa making his UFC debut, taking on Thiago Moises. Now, for Moises, he's 3-2 in his last 5 fights. That 3-2 makes his record not look as good as his level of competition should make that record look. So for Moises, that 16-6 overall record, 3-2 in his last 5. He's fought the who's who in the lightweight division in the UFC. Now, for Costa, on the other hand, 4-1, like I said, making his UFC debut, so just getting to the dance, basically. Now, for Costa, I saw a couple of discrepancies on his height. Some said 5'8", some said 5'10". We're going 5'10" on this one, so he does give the height and reach advantage. The reach seemed to be the same everywhere, so that's why I went to 5'10". I felt like 73-inch reach makes more sense for somebody who's 5'10" than 5'8", so we went with that. On the other side, 5'9", 70.5-inch reach for Moises. I don't think that's going to play a big role in this matchup, but it could. With Moises, the striking, it's okay, but it's the leg kicks that he does best with his striking, and the defense isn't there. His striking defense, he gets hit a lot. Not his strong suit. So in the striking department, we have someone on Costa's side who does have very dynamic striking, kind of a Muay Thai-ish style, but he also throws a lot of like spinning kicks, and he'll do some kind of odd angled stuff. So not really Muay Thai, but that's what I'm going to call it. We're going to say Muay Thai plus, because he does have the strong clinch game that you'd see from a Thai fighter. So I'm going to say it's Muay Thai plus on the striking. His clinch game is great. He uses the striking, uses the spinning attacks. Like I said, he'll use striking at range, striking in tight, and he'll use that to work into the clinch. likes to be able to open things up with that. Now, on the ground, he's got some good jiu-jitsu as well. He's known to be able to get some good sweeps from the bottom. So when you take him down, he's able to get right back on top, make that his, because the takedowns themselves from him, they basically have to come from the clinch. It's not that he doesn't have takedowns. He doesn't shoot a lot of just single and double leg takedowns from, wrestling style takedowns, but he does have the takedowns from the clinch. It's the jiu-jitsu that he's used to work on this ground game. However, he's going up against a guy in Moises who has great Brazilian jiu-jitsu. Now, he has submission options. And what do I mean by that? Tell you what, I don't normally do this. I'm going to erase some of the boards so I can show you what I'm talking about. So, Moises, we have submission, right? Okay, so that's what he's trying to do. Well, does Costa escape? No? Okay, well, he's out. Done. Yes. Okay. From the position of that submission, Moises is already ready to go. If he escapes, he has these two options here, depending on what way he rolls or what he does to get out, whether he uses his hands or his legs or whatever. Okay, so he goes here and X. Okay, that means he got him on this one. Say he didn't get him on this one. Okay, so escape. And then what happens here? Okay, he goes another tree and another tree and so on. Now, Moises can do this multiple layers deep with his jiu-jitsu before the other guy even is out of the first move. So he's ready to go to that next submission hold, ready to get... His jiu-jitsu is very high level, let's put it that way. So for Moises, I do think he's going to have the ability on the ground. I think on the feet, it's going to be close enough with Moises. He has a pretty strong chin. I think it's going to be close enough that he's going to be able to get it to the mat at some point and then control the rest of the fight or even get the sub there. So for me, the pick is Moises. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. If you think the newcomer Costa is going to get a win in his UFC debut, I'd love to hear about it. And I'll see you when I said Terrance McKinney and Ismael Bonfim is probably going to be the most exciting fight on the card. I didn't really think about this fight being on the card because this might also be the most exciting fight on the card because we are about to witness a train wreck in human personification. We have Gregory Rodriguez. He's coming in 4-1 in his last 5 fights, taking on Bruno Ferreira. And Ferreira, I mean, he's never lost. He's 9-0, 5-0 in his last 5 fights. So these guys both have a similar style where they're going to come forward and trade with you. So let's start off with the height advantage for Gregory Rodriguez. He is 6'3" as opposed to the 5'10" on Ferreira. That's a bit of an interesting mismatch there. However, a guy like Ferreira just charges forward and can make that big height disadvantage kind of disappear. The guy's got powerful striking. If it gets to the ground, he's got good Brazilian jiu-jitsu. He's got the ability to take somebody down and get the fight there. He switches stances as he moves in. Comes in, throws whatever combination from his orthodox stance, switches to the southpaw stance, throws a combination from there. He can just mix it up. He's pretty darn well-rounded from what I've seen, although he has not faced the level of competition that Gregory Rodriguez has or someone of the caliber of Gregory Rodriguez. Now, it's not like he's fought a bunch of bums, but he's fought a bunch of guys that weren't of that level. Let's put it that way. They're not UFC caliber fighters and not even close. So he does have finishes over every single one of them, and I do not believe he's ever even made it out of the second round. So the guy's a finisher, and rightfully so. The guy just comes forward and tries to take your head off. Gregory Rodriguez does something real similar. He's going to come forward with his striking and throw with power. He has the wrestling in his back pocket if he decides to use it, but he really doesn't ever use it. If it gets to the ground, he's got that solid jiu-jitsu that he can rely on for. In fact, I would say he's even got a higher level of Brazilian jiu-jitsu than Ferreira, so there is that, but, I mean, to be determined. We'll find out in this fight, maybe. I think it'll be a striking match, but we might find out in this fight. If Ferreira does decide to shoot a takedown, Rodriguez has some great takedown defense, like some of the best in the UFC, actually. And he does have an iron chin. As we saw, Chidi and Njokuani tried to kill this poor man, but somehow he survived. Split his face open. We all know about it. Big scar. Yeah, whatever. Gregory Rodriguez, dude's got a chin. Up there, legendary status. Up there with Drew Dober on like the Mount Rushmore of chins. Let's put it that way. So, for Gregory Rodriguez, he has the more proven skill set at the UFC level, but just because Ferreira hasn't fought that level of competition doesn't mean he doesn't have the skills to do that. We just haven't seen it yet. So this matchup's actually really tough for me to predict, but because Ferreira's stepping in on short notice, I'm going to lean on the Gregory Rodriguez side. but I am sure not going to bet this fight. If I do, it'll just be fight doesn't go the distance and parlay it with Jailton Almeida as the most juiced parlay in the world. But either way, I'm taking Gregory Rodriguez. Let me know what you guys think. I know that there's the likelihood that the cut splits open, whatever, but I'm still taking him. Let me know. We'll see you in the next light heavyweight action. We have Igor Pateria taking on Mauricio Shogun Rua in his retirement fight. Now, both of these guys are coming in 4-1 in their last 5 fights, which actually surprises the heck out of me because Shogun Rua is 41 years old, and he's 4-1 in his last 5 fights. That's huge. Most guys at this age and coming into the retirement fight with as many fights as he's had, which is, 41 fights? I think it's got a fight for every year of his life. So, for Shogun Rua to be 4-1 in his last 5 fights, that's incredible. He wants to get one more, and I think the UFC accidentally kind of maybe did him a favor here. Could also turn out really bad for him, but they gave him a guy in Igor Pateria who really doesn't have a whole lot of upside other than being a 26-year-old athletic power striker. He has horrible striking defense, and his cardio's gone after the first round, but he's just going to come forward and sling bombs at you. And for a guy like Shogun Rua, who's in his retirement fight and kind of slowed down a bit with age, that might be all it takes. However, let's not look past Rua here. Rua's got killer instinct. Still has power in his blitzes. When he comes forward and throws, he does still have power in those shots. And if it ends up on the ground, he's clearly got a ground advantage over Pateria. I know Pateria's claims like some sort of like a sambo background or something like that, but he doesn't seem to have that good at grappling. Doesn't seem to have that good at wrestling or anything like that. So I'm going to give the grappling advantage entirely to Rua here, but I think this fight's going to be over pretty quick. I think it's going to be on the feet. If it's not, it's going to be real sloppy for the rest of the fight because both guys are going to be gassed out after that first round. For me, because this isn't a fairy tale and that kind of stuff just doesn't happen, I'm going to take Pateria here. I do have him in a super long, I put $1 on an 8-fight parlay between last week and this week, and Pateria's in that. It probably actually won't hit. Somehow it's still alive. I'm amazed that it's still alive, but actually it's down to 7 because I had Gregory Rodriguez in there. We're going to get fighting Brad Tavares, but that fight got canceled. So it's a 7-fight parlay. So technically I do have a bet on Pateria, but I am not confident whatsoever. I think he's going to get the win. It's his retirement fight. This isn't Disney World. Let the guy retire. It's fine. If he wins, I won't be surprised. Pateria's not that good. So anyway, let's go to the next heavyweight matchup here. We have Johnny Walker taking on Paul Craig. Did I say that right for all you Scottish folks? Paul Craig. I think I got that one pretty good. Either way, Paul Craig, 4-1 in his last 5 fights. I promise I'm done with that. 2-3 for Johnny Walker in his last 5. In this matchup, it's very strange to me because everybody and their mother seems to be on the Johnny Walker side. And I don't quite get it. The dude's 2-3 in his last 5 fights. His 2 wins are over, competition. Cody Alaba being the most recent one. I don't think very highly of Cody Alaba at the 205 division. I don't think he's all that good. He's got 1-round cardio, comes forward recklessly, whatever. So Johnny Walker beat Cody Alaba. Big deal. For whatever reason, everybody's super high on Johnny Walker in this matchup. And I think I kind of am getting why now as the week goes on, but I still don't understand it. So Paul Craig, 4-1 in his last 5. He has that one loss to Volkan Oezdemir where he did not look good. And I think a lot of people are more so with the hype of Johnny Walker beating Cody Alaba. The Paul Craig just losing out to Oezdemir in what looked horrible, but scooting around the canvas, just doing whatever he could to get the fight to the mat. It looked bad. It looked sad. It looked pathetic. We didn't like that. Nobody likes a Paul Craig scooting on the ground. Johnny Walker, on the other hand, coming off of a big win, a good-looking win. So I think that's clouding people's judgment because let's look at the 2 fighters here. Yes, Johnny Walker's younger. He's 30 years old as opposed to the 35. Yes, Johnny Walker has a 3-inch height advantage and a massive reach advantage because the dude's got an 82-inch wingspan here as opposed to the 76 inches on Paul Craig. Now, Johnny Walker is a crazy, wild striker that can hit you with a lot of power. That's a good and a bad thing because it'll burn him out. The dude's going to get tired. His cardio's not all that good. I probably should have wrote that up there. His cardio's not all that good. But he also can knock you senseless with one of those big shots. So, high risk, high reward, I guess. He has decent Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu when it gets to the ground, but it's almost not worth mentioning because if it goes to the ground, Paul Craig is the man on the ground. Johnny Walker doesn't stand a chance against that guy on the ground. And when it comes to Jiu-Jitsu, Paul Craig all day over Johnny Walker. So for Johnny Walker, he needs to keep this on the feet. If he follows the Oezdemir game plan and is able to keep it on the feet, not follow it to the ground, great. Maybe he does get the win. Paul Craig, on the other hand, likes out Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, like I said. The dude's a master of triangles. The thing I hate the most, though, is he pulls guard, and I friggin' hate it when fighters pull guard. That drives me crazy. If you're a jiu-jitsu guy, don't pull guard. I can't stand it. I'm a jiu-jitsu guy. I would never pull guard in an MMA fight because it's stupid. You're just giving away an ideal position and giving it to your opponent. Anyway, don't pull guard, but Paul Craig, it works for him. Whatever. It's worked for him. He's 4-1 in his last 5. Who am I to say? I'm not 4-1 in my last 5. He is. So either way, dude's got a decent chin, though. I don't think that's going to matter when somebody like Johnny Walker cracks him in the face because Johnny Walker hits way harder than most of the people that Paul Craig's been facing, except for maybe Jamahal Hill. And he didn't go out from that one. So maybe Paul Craig got a better chin than I think he does. Maybe decent isn't the right word. Maybe it's iron chin because he did eat that shot from Jamahal Hill. Barely survived. But when he got there, he had the wherewithal to pop Jamahal Hill's arm out. So there's that. Here's the thing, though. I can't pick inconsistent fighters. Fighters that when they show up, you have no idea what you're going to get. I know what I'm going to get with Paul Craig. I'm going to get a guy that wants to do jiu-jitsu. What I'm going to get from Johnny Walker? Who friggin' knows? I don't know why people are so high on him. Who is he beating? He beat Ryan Spann, right? Ryan Spann's not that good. He looked good in his last fight. Ryan Spann's not that good. He might be good, but at the time that Johnny Walker beat him, he wasn't looking that good. Johnny Walker, who else did he beat? Kudialaba? Kudialaba is not that. He's not top tier. I think Paul Craig beats Kudialaba. I think Paul Craig beats him pretty easily. So, at least at this point in both of their careers. So anyway, I'm going to take Paul Craig in the pick. You guys are trying to make me bet him by making Johnny Walker such a big favorite. So, I haven't yet, but there's a pretty good chance I'm going to pull the trigger on a single unit on Paul Craig if he gets to the odds that I think he is going to get to. If he gets to like plus 185, I can't not bet him. I think the last time I saw he's at plus 170. It's tempting where it is. So either way, I'm picking Paul Craig. God, that one was worse. Let me hear your best Paul Craig way you say it. I don't know if that's even correct. I don't even know you're supposed to roll the R, but it sounds good. Let me hear it on Twitter. Send it to me. But anyway, my pick's Craig. Let me know what you guys got. I'll see the women's flyweight division. We have Jessica Andrade coming in 3-2 in her last 5 fights, taking on Lauren Murphy, who was 4-1 in her last 5. Her only loss coming to the champion, Valentina Shevchenko. Now, in this matchup here, we have something that surprised me kind of is the age difference. Jessica Andrade feels like she's been around the UFC forever, which she kind of has. She's fought in 3 different weight classes, strawweight, flyweight, and bantamweight. So she's got wins in all 3 of them. She's looked great in all 3 of them, but she's only 31 years old. And she's taken on the 39-year-old in Lauren Murphy. Now, the youth is on the side of Andrade, but the miles are on the side of Lauren. Lauren has not been in as many battles as Jessica Andrade has, but Lauren Murphy likes to make it a fight. So she's been in some scraps, so I wouldn't look into that too much. But either way, the youth is on the side of Andrade here. The reach and height, however, is on the Murphy side. So Lauren Murphy is 5'5" with a 68-inch reach, opposed to the 5'1" with a 62-inch reach of Andrade. Now, this matchup is interesting to me, and I know a lot of people are just thinking, oh, Andrade's going to win this. She's great. Awesome. Yeah, Andrade is a great fighter. Don't get me wrong. But she's going up against Lauren Murphy, who I know that people don't look too highly upon her, but when is the last time she lost outside of Valentina Shevchenko? It's been a while. So, with that said, we look at this a little bit closer now because you're thinking, okay, Lauren Murphy, oh, she's not that good, she's not that skilled or whatever, but she's tough as nails and she grinds on her opponents. She wears them down. She just wears on opponents better than most fighters. She has a very abrasive style. She's tough and she fires back when she's hit. So that's something that a lot of fighters can't do, is just get hit and just fling another one down. She does have decent wrestling as well, and it goes well with her forward pressure. So Lauren Murphy's going to walk forward and throw her hands. She kind of keeps her elbows out a little bit when she throws them, which is not ideal, but she kind of does it every now and then. It might be because her chest is kind of in the way. It's pretty large. But she'll be throwing those punches come kind of from the outside, right? And when she's throwing those down there, just walking forward and gets that takedown, lays on top of you, maybe throw some ground and pound in there or push up against the cage. She just wears on you. When she's doing this, she's abrasive the whole way. So when she gets on top of you, she's not just Oh, holding you there, using my nice jiu-jitsu technique. She's grinding on you. She's hitting you with elbows. She's rubbing her arm across your face. Whatever she's got to do just to wear you out. And she's tough as nails, like I said. She's also got good takedown defense. So for the opposite side, Andrade looking for a takedown herself? Well, probably not. She's looking for slams because Andrade is a slammer. Now, I don't know how good Lauren Murphy's slam defense is, but when Andrade gets a hold of you, if she wants you to the mat, she doesn't just take you down. Sometimes she does, but usually she wants to pick you up and put you down as hard as she can. And kind of like when she knocked out Rose Namajunas with that slam. So either way, Lauren Murphy is going to probably have the advantage in just the pure wrestling department, which is weird to say, but that raw power of Jessica Andrade, picking women up and slamming them down, there's not much you can do to counter that. But either way, the striking defense is not really that great for Lauren Murphy, but what I like about her is it's that ability to throw back when she's hit. So when Lauren Murphy eats a shot, and we know that she's going to eat a few here in this matchup, we'll see how many she can eat from Andrade. That's going to be the interesting thing. But when she does eat a shot, she throws one right back, just using that as her defense. Is we're both going to throw, and hopefully mine are going to wear you out before you can wear mine out. And I think Andrade is actually going to struggle with that a little bit because, yeah, she's a nasty power striker. She hits like a truck. Her striking is pretty good in general, and she has decent volume. But the problem is she's not used to someone just being able to eat her punch and fling back. Now, do I know for sure that Lauren Murphy can do that? Well, no, definitely not. But if anybody can, it's Lauren Murphy, who's, like I said, she can just take a punch. She's tough. And she's lucky. I know that's just her like nickname or fighter name or whatever, but this girl's lucky. Like, things just go her way. I don't know why. I mean, everybody was betting on Miesha Tate against Lauren Murphy. And I think I originally even picked Miesha Tate as well. And then before the fight, I can probably find the slip if I have to prove this, but before the fight, like the day of or maybe the day before, I threw some lunch money on Lauren Murphy. Now, what I mean by lunch money is you take $5 and you throw it on a fighter. That's a pretty big underdog. Now, if that big underdog hits, you got yourself a nice lunch the next day. That fighter doesn't hit, guess what? You don't get lunch the next day. You just used your $5 you're going to spend on lunch, and you lost it. But if they hit, say you got like, $20-$30 now you can spend on lunch. So that's the lunch money picks type of thing. We can add that one to the list of weird bets. But I placed a lunch money bet on Lauren Murphy, and it hit. Because obviously she beat Miesha Tate. Nobody thought that was going to happen. She made it look pretty easy. But anyway, Jessica Andrade is a bit of a step up in competition compared to the Miesha Tate that's at this stage of her career. So for Jessica Andrade, I do think that the power and the volume is going to be a big problem for Lauren Murphy to handle. Can her toughness withstand it? If it does get to the mat, say Jessica Andrade picks up Lauren Murphy, slams her on the mat, or say Lauren Murphy gets the takedown herself, the jiu-jitsu on Andrade's side is not that bad. She's not really her jiu-jitsu isn't her primary thing, but she's pretty good. Obviously, she got a standing arm triangle in her last submission win. So the problem is sometimes she does try to muscle things, and I mean, a standing arm triangle is one thing you can definitely muscle, but she will try to muscle things, and that will wear her out. Now, I've seen her keep cardio throughout the whole fight, 3 rounds, 5 rounds, doesn't matter. I've seen her keep cardio throughout a fight, but the problem is when you've got someone like Lauren Murphy, it's not really your cardio that's wearing on you. It's just you're just getting broken down, and it just beats you down a bit. So it's something that she does super well, and with a girl like her who throws back when she's hit, you got Andrade who will eat counter shots because she's coming in and throwing thunder, not thinking you're going to be able to counter, not thinking you're going to throw back, thinking she's going to put you out. So I think this matchup particularly actually is a closer matchup than we thought, just at a glance. And I don't fault anybody for taking, the immediate, oh, yeah, duh, Jessica Andrade, perfect, throw some money on that. But when you sit and look at it, like, I don't know, I'm going to take a shot and pick Lauren Murphy here. I know that sounds crazy. Hate me. Tell me all in the comments how dumb I am. I don't care. After the fight, if Lauren Murphy just gets starched right away, you can come back and tell me I'm an idiot. I will 100% agree with you. Dumb pick. But if Lauren Murphy wins this fight, hey, you know who said it. Also, if Lauren Murphy makes this a darn close fight, I mean, come on. Sometimes you win some, you lose some. But I think Lauren Murphy's got a real shot here, and I think the first round is going to definitely go Andrade's way. I think Lauren Murphy's going to be able to pick it up as the fight goes on, and I think she's going to be able to get it done. I'm probably not going to bet on this one. If I do, it's another lunch money bet where you put the $5 on it. Like I said, $5 gets you like, $20-$30, the next for your lunch next day. If you don't get lunch. That's just how it works. That's a lunch money bet. So if I am going to bet, it'll be a lunch money bet on Lauren Murphy. Either way, let me know what you guys think. I've got a couple more fights coming up. We got the main event coming up. I've already done a video on that, but that's going to be slapped onto the end of this one. So next up, we've got a matchup that I think a lot of people are kind of overlooking here. And before we get into it, just another reminder, like that video for me. I really appreciate it. Helps the channel, helps me, and you know you want to anyway. So please like the video. Let's get into this fight. So Gilbert Burns taking on Neil Magny in the welterweight division. This matchup is interesting because both guys coming in 3-2 in their last 5. Both guys having recently fought the boogeymen, I guess, of the division. Gilbert Burns fought Khamzat Chimaev, took him to a 3-round war. It was a tough fight there. Neil Magny didn't go as well for him when he fought Shavkat Rakhmonov, but still, good fights. Both guys not afraid to fight the boogeyman. You got to admire that. In this matchup, though, we have a massive height and reach advantage. 6'3" with an 80-inch reach for the Magny side, as opposed to the 5'10", 71-inch reach of Gilbert Burns. That is a 9-inch reach advantage for Magny, and let me tell you, Magny knows how to use that range. And not only that, but Gilbert Burns is a guy who's traditionally struggled with guys who do have exceptionally long range. Now, I'm not saying that Magny's going to go out there and just walk through Burns. I'm just saying the matchup makes this a little bit more interesting because a lot of people are already picking Burns, and they didn't even give Magny a second thought. Magny is good everywhere. He is good everywhere that this fight goes. He mixes his strikes with his wrestling, and that's something that a lot of people lack. When he's striking, he can strike that deep, long range. As you come in closer, he changes those straight punches to elbows. And once he's done with the elbows, he gets into the clinch. Once he gets into the clinch, he pushes up against the cage, and he really excels in that cage push. Holding guys up against the cage, peppering them with shots, wearing on them, hitting with the elbows, all that good stuff. And Magny, he has great cardio himself. So as he's wearing other guys down, using that cage push, using the long range, mixing in the takedowns with his decent wrestling that he's got as well, mixing that in there, Magny's a tough night out for anybody, except for maybe Shavkat Rakhmonov. Yeah, that didn't go well for him. But otherwise, Magny's a tough fight for just about anybody. Ask Daniel Rodriguez about that. He thought he was going to win that fight. Turns out, nope. Magny snatched it up. Now, do I think Gilbert Burns is better than Daniel Rodriguez? Yes, I do, and I think it's going to be a tougher matchup for Magny than Daniel Rodriguez. But Gilbert Burns does have to watch out for some things that Neil Magny brings to the table that he would not have to watch out for against many other opponents in the division. That biggest thing being that 80-inch reach and somebody who knows how to use it very well. Now, for Gilbert Burns, don't overlook Gilbert Burns either. The dude's durable as heck, so he can take whatever Magny's throwing. The guy's got solid Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. If this gets to the ground, there's not many guys in the division that are going to have better Jiu-Jitsu than Gilbert Burns. I can't think of anybody off the top of my head, but there's maybe somebody, but I can't think of anybody at welterweight that has better Jiu-Jitsu than Gilbert Burns. Pure Jiu-Jitsu, I'm saying. Either way, dude's got power in his hands. We saw him drop Usman in their fight. He looked pretty good in that fight as well. So obviously the power's there. He cracked Khamzat a couple of times. Power's there. So obviously if Gilbert Burns hits Neil Magny, Magny's gonna feel it. He's just gonna have to cross that range without eating enough shots of his own that power isn't on his shot because he's too busy covering up. He's been working his wrestling a lot, and he has solid wrestling now. So for Burns, I think that extra wrinkle of adding that better wrestling into his game, I think is going to help him with a guy like Magny, who on the feet probably has the advantage on the feet as far as skill goes. Yeah, Burns probably has more power than Magny. I don't think that's crazy to say, but I think Magny's got the better skill on the feet. But I think the wrinkle of that extra wrestling, the threat of the jiu-jitsu from Burns, is going to make that easier for him to close the distance because he can use the takedown threat. He can use the threat of that lights-out jiu-jitsu that he has against a guy like Magny. So for me, this matchup is a lot closer than a lot of people are picking, or than a lot of people are thinking. Now, I do have Burns in that crazy long shot parlay that I made over the last 2 weeks. That's somehow still alive, and if it hits over this, I'll be just so confused. But either way, it's a 7-fighter. It's 7 fighters net fights now. Burns is one of them I threw on there at like minus 320 or something like that. He's over minus 400 now. I wouldn't play Burns at the odds that you're currently looking at. I wouldn't play Magny either, though. I want to sit back and watch this one. This right here is a great fight to kick your feet up on the coffee table, crack open a couple of cold root beers, toss them back one after the other as you just enjoy this daggone thing, because this should be a good fight. It should be a fun fight for as long as it lasts. Two guys that are very skilled in the division, both trying to make that way back up towards the top, because both of them are kind of hovering there around the bottom top 10 region. So that like 15 to 7 area, that's just kind of a bunch of killers in the welterweight division. And these guys are right up in there, okay? So for me, I'm going to pick Burns ever so slightly, just the tiniest bit, while I'm sitting there sipping my root beers, just rooting for that $1 parlay to hit. So either way, let me know what you guys think. Let's go to the co-main event. Deiveson Figueiredo taking on Brandon Moreno in the quadrilogy to unify the interim championship and the undisputed championship in the flyweight division. Now, before we get too far into this, last reminder, hit like for me. I freaking appreciate it. Thank you very much. Back to the fight. So, both guys, 3-1 and a draw in their last 5 fights. Both guys have fought each other more often than they fought anybody else in recent memory. 35 years old is Figueiredo and 29 for Moreno. Moreno has had 28 fights in his 29 years of life. That's impressive. Moreno's going to have a height and reach advantage, 5'7", 70-inch reach, as opposed to the 5'5", 68-inch reach. But for Deiveson Figueiredo, he is going to be the bigger fighter, if that makes any sense. I think he cuts down from like 160-something to get 125. Pretty crazy. I'm 143 pounds, and I don't want to cut to 125. Could I do it? Maybe. I don't want to do it. So the guy that cuts down from that to make 125, that's crazy. Now, something I want to mention, I had up here the weight cut issues and the fact that Figueiredo's cardio fades if that weight cut doesn't go well. But I got rid of it because I have it on pretty good authority that Figueiredo is already pretty dang close to his fight weight, to where he needs to be, or not his fight weight, to his weigh-in weight, to where he needs to be on Friday for the weigh-in. So for Figueiredo, typically that's an issue. I don't think it's going to be in this one. He is in Brazil, so that does help. He is with his in his home, or like, home country at least. He's not traveling all the way to the United States to then make the weight cut. So for me, I do think that helps. I don't think the weight cut's going to be an issue. For Moreno, on the other hand, we've got a guy that does not have issues making weight. It's not a problem for him. He's got great boxing, lightning fast hands. Problem with that, sits too heavy on the lead leg. So the counter to those heavy on the lead leg boxers like Moreno is you got guys like Figueiredo who can kick you in that leg so hard that your leg's not going to work for you, and you got to start switching stances. Now, that's a thing that he can do. He's done it in the past to people. He's done it in the past to Moreno, kicked him in the leg a couple times. Kaikar France was able to get a couple shots on the leg of Moreno in their fight. Moreno was just able to end that one with a sick liver kick, and a good liver kick. It's one of my favorite moves. Actually, Boss Fruit is one of my favorite fighters ever. Liver kick, dude, that's money right there. Moreno did that one great justice. He stuck that one right on Kaikar France, right in the liver. That was game over for him. So, good liver kick. Anyway, I don't think that's going to be his game plan going against Figueiredo, is just to go for liver kicks. So, we're going to keep going on. Now, the pace that Moreno sets with his insane cardio, he has insane cardio, some of the best in the UFC. The pace that he sets with his boxing, pace, and cardio, it's a problem for most fighters. Now, for a guy like Figueiredo, who's more of the sniper, he's accurate. He wants to just wait for his shot and put that accurate strike that puts you to sleep. If you saw the fight where he knocked out poor Joseph Benavidez, my goodness, that is nasty. A guy like Figueiredo, if he hits you with one of those shots, you're not getting up. I mean, poor Joseph Benavidez. That guy was in another world. He didn't know what happened to him. He was like a mummy at the end of that. It was nasty. So if Figueiredo lands one of those, game over. We saw Moreno get hit with some of those and get dropped in the last fight, and that's what gave the win for Figueiredo. Now, for Moreno, he's going to try and get you with the volume and just that pace. So it's going to be the volume and pace versus the power and accuracy of Figueiredo. Who wins out in that? Well, I don't know. It's going to be a tough one. We've split the wins and we've got a draw. So on the Moreno side, it's interesting because he's the one with the submission win in this trilogy that they've had already. But I would say Deiveson Figueiredo is the more accomplished jiu-jitsu player. I think he has the better overall jiu-jitsu. In that matchup, Moreno had the better jiu-jitsu that night. So clearly either guy can get it. Either guy can get it done. Moreno does have probably one of the best chins in the flyweight division, though, because he's eaten multiple shots from Figueiredo and hasn't gone to sleep, which is really impressive. Figueiredo has that powerful striking. He will walk guys down, hit them on the chin, stick those kicks to the body, kicks to the legs, do body shots with his punches as well. Who was that he dropped with that body punch? I cannot remember for whatever reason. I can picture the fight and I can't remember the name. Either way, sick, nasty, like uppercut body shot. Drops the guy. Can't remember who that was. Either way, the way that he just walks the guy down and just puts the hurt on him is impressive. Moreno, on the other hand, he's using the head movement, using the fist, using the speed. But he's willing to get into a scrap. And that is why in this matchup, I'm going to pick Figueiredo yet again for the 4th time. I think Figueiredo is going to get this one done because Brandon Moreno is too willing to get into a scrap. And if you get into a scrap with a guy like Figueiredo, you're going to get caught at least a few times. And that's what cost him in the last fight. The dude has a good chance of winning. Obviously, we have the issues with the gyms. I don't want to just beat on a dead horse. Everybody's mentioning that. So for Moreno, I understand the gym issue. It's there. We all know about it. But the guy's willing to get into a scrap with a guy like Figueiredo, and that's the biggest problem. Because a guy like Figueiredo is going to be able to drop you and negate all of the volume that you built up by putting you to the mat. So in this matchup, I do lean Figueiredo. And actually in this one, I do think he's going to be able to get the finish. I think he's in his home country. He's already getting close to the weight. I just think he's got the tools. We've seen him drop Moreno. Now he just has to be able to finish. And for me, I'm taking Figueiredo once again. I will be betting and put a unit on. I'm going to put a unit on him. Actually, I've already got a unit on him. I may put another one on him because I'm a wild man like that. And sometimes I do dumb stuff and get overexposed to fighters. And Figueiredo is a fighter that I do enjoy watching in the flyweight division. So I'm picking Figueiredo here. I love his whole shtick where he's just a bad boy. The whole like red strip through there, the God of War. Yeah, love it. So for me, I'm taking Figueiredo. I know there's a lot of love for Brandon Moreno, and if you are a Brandon Moreno fan, hey, so am I. I just picked Figueiredo over him in this matchup. Doesn't mean I dislike the guy. Let me know who you've got in the comments. We've still got the main event left, so let's get to that fight right now. So for the main event here, we have Glover Teixeira taking on Jamahal Hill. Of course, both guys 4-1 in their last 5 fights. Jamahal Hill's lost being that submission to Paul Krieg with the arm where the elbow came out. And for Glover Teixeira, his lone loss is also a submission, but it's to Yuri Prochazka when he lost the title. Both guys very accomplished in the division, but at different stages in their career. As you see, Glover Teixeira, 43 years of age. For Jamahal Hill, he's only 31, so he's still up and coming, still kind of in that prime, actually, especially for the light heavyweight division. Jamahal Hill's got a long career ahead of him. Glover, on the other hand, he's kind of on the way out. So for Teixeira, maybe he gets this win here. Maybe he doesn't. But if he doesn't, is it time to retire? If he does he still retire? He said he wouldn't retire, but that's for him to decide. Who knows? But either way, in this matchup, the physical intangibles, I think it's pretty easy to say, are going to be on the Jamahal Hill side. Now, Jamahal Hill, he's also 6'4" with a 79-inch reach, as opposed to the 6'2", 76-inch reach that we see from Teixeira. Now, that's not a massive difference, but Jamahal Hill is someone who uses his range really well. Now, I wanted to point that out now because Jamahal Hill, if you look back in any of those fights, he's able to keep guys at range while using his forward pressure, and not many people can do that. So we look at Glover's last matchup, which was Yuri Prochazka. Yuri Prochazka also has good forward pressure, but he doesn't keep guys at range. He just, as he closes distance, his arms get in tighter and he starts doing hooks and uppercuts and things like that, spinning elbows, whatever. He starts working those type of things. Jamahal Hill doesn't do that. He uses good, crisp boxing to keep you at long range. Yes, he'll hit you with a hook as you get in closer, but he'll re-establish the distance that he can use so well, that 79-inch reach. He'll re-establish that as he walks you up to the cage or gets himself off the cage, working with that forward pressure. So this is an interesting way to look at this matchup because Glover Teixeira, also a guy with heavy, heavy forward pressure. Now his forward pressure, I would say, more aggressive than Jamahal Hill's, but his goal is different. Glover Teixeira's goal isn't to back you up so you have nowhere to run and crack you with a big shot. Like, sure, he'll take that shot if he can get you, but his goal is to get a hold of you, drag you to the ground and pound you into submission because that's what he does so well. Glover Teixeira's grappling it's very damaging. It's an abrasive grappling style. When he gets you down, he does have decent wrestling, but a lot of times it's not his wrestling that's what's going to get you down particularly. It's a combination of that with his forward pressure and his decent striking that he throws just with some good volume. Dirty boxing. He is the dirty boxing king. When it gets up against the cage, he starts damaging you to pull you down for that takedown and then get on top of you with that grappling. But then he sets up that ground and pound, right? So that ground and pound, he's using that to set up the sub or TKO, but obviously he's using that to set up that submission attempt. And what he did that caused him not to be so successful in the Prochazka fight was that what he did is, instead of just taking the win with the ground and pound, he kind of prematurely went for that submission. And that caused Prochazka a few opportunities where he could scramble, get out, make some space, look for submissions of his own, and he ended up getting one, obviously. But it gave Prochazka chances. And Glover Teixeira, the reason he did that is because he's starting to fade a little bit as he's aged. So he has slowed down with his age. I don't think he's totally washed or anything like that. Don't get me wrong. Glover Teixeira is still one of the best in the entire light heavyweight division. But that's what caught him there, is instead of just using that ground and pound to really cement that finish, kind of like he did to poor Anthony Smith, where he knocked his darn teeth out. He beat that boy to a pulp, but he didn't do that in the Prochazka fight. When he had the moments to do that, he knew, okay, this is 5 rounds. I'm exhausted. I need to get this done with a submission now, as opposed to try to do this, keep doing this ground and pound, and then carry on to it later rounds if he happens to survive. So he tried to go for the submission early, a little premature in that situation, and that's what cost him. Now, has he learned from that? I'm sure that he has. Glover Teixeira is a very smart guy, but when your cardio starts to fail you, what do? Well, you try to rush it again. So is that going to happen here? I don't know. I can't predict whether or not it's going to happen accurately with my crystal ball or anything. I can only go off of what I'm assuming he will do based on previous actions and based on where he's at in his level of his career, which right now is towards the back end of the career. Let's be honest. So with that, you have a guy in Jamahal Hill who his combat to this is uses really good boxing that he has, and it's crisp. He has crisp boxing. People think he's just a big power puncher. Yes, he is a power puncher. He has serious power, and he keeps it late into fights. Glover Teixeira is never out of danger in this matchup with Jamahal Hill because that power lasts. But he is a good boxer, skill for skill. He has the boxing technique, and he's got volume to put behind it. So that's something that he's going to try to use to put Glover Teixeira in the danger zone every time he wants to get that takedown. Now, if Glover's coming in, Hill's keeping the range. Well, Glover's got to cover some distance to be able to get to Hill, and he's in the danger zone every time he does it. Now, if he goes in, doesn't get the first takedown, because Jamahal Hill's initial takedown defense is usually pretty good. When you start chaining them together, yes, you can get him down. He has shown the ability to get back up when taken down, but you can get him down as you've, kind of worked your way through. Something that's interesting, though, that we're gonna see how it goes up here is Glover usually uses the striking to get to either the cage to drag you to the ground, or use the striking to get your hands up so he can get a hold of your legs and pull you down to the mat with his takedowns. Typically, he wants to get you up the cage, dirty box you, and pull you down. That's what he wants to do. Now, Jamahal Hill, he's going to circle off at that range. He has very good striking defense and the ability to read his opponent's punches. Now, Glover Teixeira's punches aren't traditional boxing punches. Typically, he does have nice striking, just not in the way that you would think from a technical standpoint. A lot of times, he'll wing a shot to get in low, and that's okay. A lot of wrestlers do that, but Jamahal Hill's planning for this. He's seen these things. He reads opponents well. That's what he is. That is how he's able to move, in the pocket and then throw those shots and then get back at range. Move in, hit those shots, get back at range. That's why he's able to do those things. Jamahal Hill's kind of looked over as a boxing talent here. So something else I wanted to point out here. If we have Jamahal Hill, he's controlling the range, and Glover is going to have to cover distance every time he comes in. What happens if Glover doesn't get the first takedown? Well, he's going to eat a shot from Jamahal Hill. Now, Glover's very durable. If you see, I put that up there. He's very durable. But how many times is Glover going to be willing to go in looking for that takedown, using that striking to get in, trying to push him up against the cage? How many times is he going to be willing to do that, eating a shot from a guy like Jamahal Hill? Probably not a lot, to be honest. He didn't want to eat shots from Yuri either, rightfully so. I wouldn't. Yuri hits hard. But with Yuri, it wasn't the same because Yuri throws inside shots. He throws hooks, uppercuts, elbows, things like that are short range. So by the time Yuri's able to hit Glover's already on Yuri. By the time Jamal's able to hit Glover's still at range and still has to close that distance. And that straight shot can can stop that takedown right there. Now, do I think striking is a good takedown defense? No, it's a horrible takedown defense. But the threat of it is going to be there for Glover Teixeira. Now, come rounds 3, 4, 5, I think those are going to be all Jamahal Hill. So for Glover Teixeira in this matchup, he needs to get this one done earlier because his cardio is going to start to fade. I don't believe that Jamahal Hill's is. I don't think that he's going to be able to get Jamahal Hill out of there in the 4th or the 5th round. We saw Prochazka able to put a choke on Glover Teixeira, who's a far better jiu-jitsu player than Yuri Prochazka is. And for Yuri Prochazka to be able to choke him out, that says that Glover Teixeira is starting to fade with his age. And that's not something, you can't fault the guy for it. It's just the fact younger guys typically win. I mean, there's a 12-year age gap here. Jamahal Hill's got a massive advantage there. First round, Glover Teixeira has a really good chance of winning this, especially if he can get in on that first takedown, maybe second takedown, and land some serious damage. After that, Jamahal Hill is every round going to get better and better and better, whereas Teixeira gets worse and worse and worse. Jamahal Hill's power is going to keep, his boxing is going to keep, his range is going to keep. Teixeira's takedowns are going to get sloppier, his punches are going to get sloppier, and his cardio is going to get worse and worse. Now, yes, Jamahal Hill will get tired eventually, but I think it's going to happen to Teixeira faster. So for me, when I look at this matchup, I will say I played a line on Glover Teixeira when it first came out because he was a massive underdog. He was like plus 145 or something, plus 145. Jamahal Hill right now is at minus 120. I thought for sure he was going to be the underdog at some point. So then we end up with, okay, I wanted to arbitrage this one, and we're not there yet. I don't think it's going to get there anymore. Now I'm starting to think people are catching on to the Jamahal Hill. So if that's not the case, how do I make it plus money for Jamahal Hill? Well, I got a couple options here. I want to make the Jamahal Hill pick. So do I say, okay, I'm going to pick Jamahal Hill over 1.5 rounds? Maybe, but there's also a chance that Jamahal Hill just starches Glover Teixeira right away. What I'm thinking is, if I just take Jamahal Hill inside the distance, it should get me to even money, and then I'm clean. And I can arbitrage it, and then if Glover wins, I make a bunch of money, and if Jamahal Hill's, I'm clean. You know, I'm good. If Jamahal Hill wins, I'm clean. My pick, though, I do think Jamahal Hill's going to get this one done. I do think Jamahal Hill is going to be able to get this fight. I think he's going to get the finish on Glover at some point. When I placed that bet on Glover, it was try to beat the line movement because I thought for sure that Glover was going to be the favorite. And he still might, but it's not looking like it. And after you guys see my video and start to understand and like, oh, hey, he's got a point there. Maybe that'll be the case for more people are betting on Jamahal Hill. So I do think Jamahal Hill's the rightful pick. I think he's the better fighter for more minutes in this fight. Now, like I said, first round, Glover's deadly. So maybe you play Glover by submission, or maybe you play Glover by maybe you play them both inside the distance because this fight probably isn't going the distance. So either way, let me know what you guys think.